So we got Mr. Kyle Clarkson here. Kyle, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you hopping on. And obviously, the intent of this is to provide a platform for other agents to come in, listen to what a top producing agent, top producing team does, and be able to hopefully get some value and ask you some questions. I don't think there's a lot of opportunity for this in our market, so I wanted to open that up for them. So thank you so much for joining us today.
You betcha.
And obviously, you got another event tomorrow, so people are gonna double dip with you this
Yeah,
week.
yeah. Well, they're not signed up. They should come tomorrow as well. That'll be
Yeah,
good stuff.
it'll be good. Plus, it's an in-person event, so if you haven't, I can get an email out to everybody who signed up. If you
Yeah.
send me the link, I'll pass it out to everybody to make sure
Yeah.
that they can see live.
Yep, I'll get you that link when we're done for sure.
Cool. Well, awesome. So tell me a little bit. I think I've heard this story about how you got started, but kind of let everybody know like how you even got started in real estate, and what was the intent of what was going through your mind at that time.
Well, I don't know, I was in my early, mid-20s at the time, and needed to start making some money. And I am a third generation real estate agent. My grandfather started a real estate company. My dad still has the sign that says, it's Clarkson Real Estate and Insurance and Other Things or something like that. So that he started back in the 50s. Then he brought the Century 21 franchise to Des Moines in the 80s. They sold, he sold it and then sold again. Anyway, today's Coldwell Banker was the company that my grandfather started
Oh,
back in the day. So it's been sold a few times, but anyway, yeah. So when I got into it, it was, my grandfather was in real estate. I had an uncle in real estate. My dad was in real estate. My sister was in real estate, and thought, well, if they can do it, then certainly I could do this as well. So I went and met with my dad, and kind of definitely helped me get going. But that was back in 2004 when I started. So that's kind of how I got started back in the day. And I sold, I think, 2 houses in my first 6 months in real estate, and then 12 in my first full year.
wow.
Yeah, good times.
So 2004, so you were right before the whole 2006 to 2008 housing crash. What was your experience or the differences or similarities in market from, pre 2008 to
Yeah.
now?
So, here everything's, yeah, that may have started in 6, 7, 8 on the coast. For me personally, and I think for the Midwest in general, we didn't really start to feel it until 8, 9, 10, and my worst year is 2011. And talk about that later. But so for me, 6, 7, 8 actually were pretty good real estate years, and then it kind of went downhill from there. But the biggest thing I think that's different, when you talk about, well, things are pretty good right now, but last fall, as they kind of slowed down, uh, there were 6,600 homes for sale. Like, that is the largest number of homes that I remember being for sale in Des Moines, was 6,600. And today I think we're right around 2,400. I didn't look this morning where we're at, but we've been hovering over under that number. So that's a big difference when you have 6,600 homes for sale and only 2,400 a day. So people, looking at tons of options. I was doing a first time home buyer seminar the other night, and I was telling them, you as a buyer would go out and look, and we may go out and look this weekend. We set up 8 or 9 homes to look at, and maybe one sold before then. But how we approach showing homes is so much different, because if you're waiting till the weekend, majority of those homes probably gone, right? And
Right.
how we work with first time home buyers, and the speed of which needs to be done is dramatically different. But the biggest difference is there's just no inventory, and I think that's why the market continues to stay pretty strong, even with the rise in interest rates. It's just lack of inventory, and the good ones are still selling right away, right?
Right. So what is a normal amount of inventory for our market?
Oof, I don't know that I've experienced normal yet. I would say for us, the National Association of Realtors says that like 6 months supply is a balanced market.
Mhm.
We're operating probably less than 2 months supply right now. And so I would say we probably need double what we have, probably something in the 4 to 5 range in there to feel more balanced. With this low number, that's why and this is not just us here in Des Moines, it's nationally as well. But, the reason we saw all that appreciation, when you got low inventory and a ton of buyers out there. And so to balance that out a little bit, I think probably somewhere in Des Moines, we need 4,000, maybe 5,000 for a more balanced market, maybe twice what we got today.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big change. And I don't know what you think, but I don't think we'll see that for quite a while.
No, I don't see how we could. It's going to probably increase as the year goes on, but we're a long ways away from having a number like that. And some of these builders have slowed down a little bit as well. And we need, part of the problem and the reason inventory is so low is when we went through that in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, whatever, builders went out of business or quit building, and you can see just the lack of new builds and new permits that were pulled during that time is a big reason that we have an inventory shortage.
Right. I saw an article today that March housing sales were up like 10%. That's fine nationwide. Up 10% merely because of people are buying new construction. So I'm like, let's hope that's hopefully that trend continues and allows builders to keep building. Because like you said, unless there's more inventory, we're going to keep facing this problem.
We need it for sure.
So talk about a little bit, I think, you've had struggles in your business coming up. Talk a little bit about, what you have experienced in your business struggles wise, and even things that you may even still face today.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to, again, 6 was okay, 7 was okay, 8 was okay, 9 was, I kind of went like this and then went like that in my business. And so every year was worse than the previous. 9 was worse than 8, 10 was worse than 9, 11 was worse than 10. And it's a combination of things. One, when I got into the business, one thing my dad, who was a real estate agent, was really good at is teaching sales skills. Like here's what sales skills looks like. And the company was really good at training that. One thing they were not great at is teaching you how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I learned the sales side of thing, and felt like I, was fairly skilled at that. But market goes down and the phone was ringing before, people were coming to open houses before, and all of a sudden market slows down, people aren't showing up and the phone's not ringing. And I didn't really have a plan. If you can't get in front of people, you could be the most skilled salesperson in the world, but if there's no one there to use those skills on, you're not going to sell anything. And so that's my market, or my business took definitely a turn for the worse during that stretch, and actually got out of real estate kind of in 2011 and took a job as a real estate trainer. And so that's in 2012, 13, and 14. I went and was a full-time real estate trainer for Coldwell Banker during that stretch because I couldn't sell. So I might as well teach people how to do it, right? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing that I learned during that stretch was, listen, you can be an amazing real estate agent, do an amazing job, but if people don't know how amazing you are, then it really doesn't matter. And so that's one thing I learned that kind of came out on the other side was I need to be a better marketer. I need to do a better job of getting in front of the path of business. And that was really a time in my life after that training where I said, okay, I'm going to build a business. I'm not just going to be a salesman, but I'm going to build a business. And so that's what I did, starting 14 and 15.
No, that's big right there, because that's as much as like being a real estate agent, like obviously you're selling houses and stuff, but it's also business. You have expenses and taxes that you have to keep track of. So if talking to a new agent or someone who's experienced, how would you tell them to like start the business planning process? Like where would you start? Where would you look to go with that?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I did is I started an S corp. So I actually started a business, right, instead of just being a sales guy. So I started that, opened a business checking account, which I had never had up to that point. So I did the basic thing, and then I started profit and loss. And so every month looking at the profit and loss, where's it going? And as you start, if you know your numbers, then you can really know your business. And so as I started just following my numbers, I started to see, okay, what am I spending money on? And is it working? And if it was working, I started doubling down on it. And if it wasn't, then I got rid of it. And so that's been a constant lesson. It's like, I'm not afraid to try something, but if it doesn't work, then we move on from it. And if it works, we're going to double down and we'll double down again. And that's kind of what I started doing. When I saw success in certain areas, then, you start seeing a return on it, and that because you're actually running a business and you have a profit and loss and all that good stuff.
How long, I feel like that is a great point about the P&L, and understanding where your numbers, how long are you willing to let an idea ride out before you're like, you know what, I'm gonna pull the plug on this?
I probably let it ride maybe longer. Well, so take farming as an example. Like sometimes you can't just, if I'm gonna farm a neighborhood, well, I can't take a month and just say, oh, that didn't work. Because statistics will tell you that that's something that's a long-term investment. So if I'm not doing that several times a month over the course of a year, then I really haven't tried it. And so it kind of depends what it is. Online leads are a big part of my business. And so it takes time to, nurture and cultivate those. So I certainly wouldn't have um, pull the plug too quickly. You got to give it time and actually see if it works.
Yeah. And you
Not
talk
a set
about,
amount,
what's that?
not a set amount of time.
Yeah, right. I mean, just evaluate, but I think cutting an idea off too early could, that could be a detriment to your business.
Yes, right. Yeah. I can farming, if I'm going to try a month and, I never really, that means I didn't try it.
Right. Yeah. And you talk about Zillow leads, and I know that's a big part of your business and with your team. Initially, what made you decide to start exploring that option for your own personal business and then for your team?
So I go back to when I got out of teaching and education. One of the first things I did was I hired a real estate coach, and that was 2015. Same real estate coach I have today. It's been 8 years, and he really is nothing like me, which is good. I mean, in some ways he is, but which is good because he pushes me, and there's a lot of good accountability, and he, challenges me to try things I haven't tried before. One of those was online leads. And I learned fairly quickly, like one thing when things were not good, I remember my wife talking to me and says, well, you're a pretty good real estate agent. And I was, and I am, but people didn't know it. Right. And so Zillow was a great opportunity for me to get in front of people, get in the path of business, and people to realize, maybe I am halfway decent at real estate. And so I started paying for leads, and I started finding, kind of a lower price zip code, because Zillow is a very much volume thing. Like if I'm paying for one or two leads a month. I had this conversation with an agent at another company here, probably 2 weeks ago. But, she was getting like one or two leads Zillow a month. She's, higher price zip code, whatever. Well, problem with that is the numbers on something like Zillow, like the best of Zillow, you're going to close maybe 1 out of 5. Like Zillow wants to see 1 out of 10 from our team. If you're doing 1 out of 10, you're doing pretty good. Well, that means you got to get, a lot of leads to see that, because they might be working with an agent, or they can't get financing, or they're, whatever it might be. They just stand you up, whatever. There's plenty of that in Zillow, but we know that we need a lot of leads, because if I get 10 leads, maybe 5 of them are halfway decent, maybe 2 of them end up closing. So I wanted to get into a zip code that I could afford, get as many leads as I could. And that's really where I started for the first year or two, was there. And then, when I was talking about doubling down, well, I started to double down, and I started to spend more money, and I started to do more zip codes. And, that was definitely a big part of my business. One of the things, a lot of this, I may end up talking about tomorrow, but one of the things that, we talk about is agent archetypes, and it was an idea introduced to me. And it really was a freeing idea, because agent archetype says there's different types of people. Like we just can't be just shoved into one. Here's how you're a successful real estate agent. Like there's many ways that people can be successful in real estate. And so as you look at that, they talk about a prospector, a converter, a marketer, and a networker as kind of the 4 big ones. And so Zillow, well, that's the converter space. And so I started realizing to see that was like super freeing for me, because I always pictured like, okay, you've got to be great at, being a networker, or, I need to call for sale by owners or expired listings. Like if I'm going to be successful, I need to do that, or I need to go door knocking. And that just doesn't excite me. It doesn't get me out of bed in the morning. But then when I kind of realized, you know what, it's okay to do Zillow and it's okay to realtor.com or whatever online lead source, because it's just an avenue in which you meet people and then you connect with them from there. And some of, people that are friends now and clients now, well, that's how I met them, right?
Right.
And we online dated a little bit through Zillow, and now we got a relationship. And so that part is cool. And it's just been an avenue in which we've done that. So to realize that, okay, I'm a converter, like that's a space I live in, and it's okay. It's okay. I talk to so many real estate agents that just Zillow is a bad word to them. And for us, we've just kind of embraced it.
Yeah. Is there a specific archetype that you would say that fits that Zillow? Because like you said, there's so many people going back to starting something and not finishing it. I feel like some people will do Zillow for 3, 4, 6 months and then just say it was a waste of time.
Yeah. So that'd be the converter space. So that's one of the things, when we, talk with people interested in our team is like, okay, here's a big part. Now, you don't have to like be on part of our team if you don't love Zillow. That's okay. Like that's all right. But I'm always open and honest about. I had a gal on my team, one time where she wasn't on my team very long because she discovered like she didn't really like taking Zillow calls and didn't like that aspect of it, and that's okay. Go build your business, what you enjoy and what works for you. Um, that's all right. And so if you're a networker or a marketer or whatever, you can build your business around that. But the Zillow space is definitely a converter space. Phone's
Mhm.
ringing, you're picking it up, and your job is to convert.
Right. Is there a way, or is there like a test that like an agent can do this? Because I feel like that's a good way to know where your business should come from and what you should put your time on, is knowing what type of person you are.
Yep.
Is there a way that is this something that you've given to your team for them to do and try to figure out where they're at, or can
Yeah, I
they
mean,
do this themselves?
are you gonna dread when that phone rings? So if that phone rings and I see it's Zillow, is that gonna be like a big dread, like, oh my, I do not want this? Like for me, it's like an exciting thing. Oh, phone ringing, here's a great possibility, great opportunity for me. So if it's an avenue that is just gonna be dread for you, then don't don't do it. Like I don't want people to be miserable. If someone's a great marketer and that's what they do and that's where they thrive, then man, build your business around doing that. Um, so I don't know. There's a true test until you've actually done it, but I think fairly quickly.
Right. Yeah. So talk about, building a team. When at what volume level were you at when you initially built a team? And like what year did you start hiring agents for your team?
Yeah, great question. When I got done with training, and this is 2015, I think. I was probably a year and I hired an assistant. And that was kind of the first step. Again, I go back to coaching, and my coach really pushed me to like, hey, this is kind of the next step. You need an assistant. Okay. Because you're spending time and energy on other tasks where you need to be out selling. Like if you're going to grow your business, then you need to be doing the things that you're good at. And I think, my staff now would tell me that there's a lot of things I'm not good at. You guys say that? No. Okay. But to really free you up to do what you're good at and the sales side of things, because that's actually where you make money, right? And so that was the first thing. Hired an assistant. We took on a lot of those tasks, and then probably a year later, I hired a buyer's agent. He did not last long with me. He went back to a different sales job, but then I hired two after that, and then it just kind of continued to add to our team over time.
And as a leader, obviously there's different management styles, but how have you created, like I'm looking just like your team's on this call right now, they're gonna all be at your event. Like obviously they have a lot of love and respect for you. How have you created a culture that has, created retention and created this love and for each other and like very tight knit group?
Yeah, just fear, a lot of fear that if they're not here, I'm just kidding. Uh, yeah, I mean, I am probably more hands off than I probably should be. What I have loved about our team is creating opportunity. And I think with what we've done, we've created opportunity for the members on our team to do business. And so there's so many different teams in Des Moines and all over the country. And my team is really built on, we want to generate as many leads as we can so our agents can build a business. And I don't want anybody to leave. We got an amazing team, but I also like, hey, if they get to a point and they want to do their own thing, and I mean, that'd be amazing. And I would, certainly wish any of them well. But I think we've created something. One, team gets along really well. We've got great chemistry. And two, like there's opportunity there, like to sell houses that I think a lot of places you don't have that opportunity. Because there's a lot of great teams and a lot of great mentorships and whatever. And I want to be that certainly, and help people grow in their business. But at the end of the day, like to make it in real estate, you need to sell houses.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So what's your expectation then with, if an agent's on your team, what's your expectation in terms of whether they do Zillow leads or maybe that's not their primary focus? Like, what's your expectation of them?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much all our team does Zillow, but again, if someone didn't, it would be fine if they didn't. We've got some other avenues in which we generate leads as well. My goal is to get to a point where we're generating 200 leads a month, and I think we're pretty close to that right now. Some lead sources are better than others, but I think we're probably generating in the ballpark of 200 leads a month. Because again, if I've got 15 team members, I mean, if we can generate 10 to 15 leads, that would be amazing. So expectation is, I mean, for better or worse, like if Zillow, for instance, is calling, then they're calling more than one agent on the team, and the first one to answer the phone gets it. So there's probably an expectation, like for better or worse, you gotta have your phone, and yeah, better keep it with you.
Yeah.
And certainly like an expectation, like that doesn't have to be all the time. Like they could, let Adelina know, like, hey, I'm going golfing today. Riley, he goes golfing every day. I'm just kidding. He's on.
He's a good golfer.
Oh, he's okay. He thinks he's better than he is, but like, so hey, if I want people to live life and go on vacation and go golfing, whatever, because we've got enough people on the team that can cover. We're in 8, like Zillow, for instance, we're in 8 different zip codes, and we always want 2 or 3 people in each zip code, so somebody's covering. But if Riley did want to go golfing, like, hey, I just want to be paused today, no problem. And so there is an expectation. If you're working, you're working. But if you're golfing, you're golfing, or you're living life. That's either one is fine. We do, we have a team meeting once a week, Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, where we spend an hour together, and there is an expectation that people are there because it's like the one time in person that we are all together. And we do other events as well together, but that's like the one time a week we get to be together as a group.
Yeah. And so, doing the Zillow leads, Riley putting
Riley.
With Zillow leads, obviously I'm sure you're doing training on like scripting and how to have those conversations. If somebody wants to start doing Zillow, what would you say is a good plan of action for, taking from initial call up until under contract? I would say, I know that's kind of like a broad time frame.
We have one goal. So if you're working online leads, that initial call comes in. I don't know the person, but I have one goal from that call, and that is to get in front of them, set the appointment. And so even, we're a Zillow Flex team, and so they track everything we do, and there's an AOM rate, and we have to hit 80% AOM rate. Well, what does that mean? They are listening, not physically listening, but they have a system in place that they're listening for keywords. And so within the first 30 seconds of a call, we are to have asked the question to set the appointment. So within 30 seconds, that's the goal. That's what Zillow wants to see. That's what we want to see, is like, okay, they called about 123 Main Street. Let's set the appointment. Can we see it at 4 o'clock tomorrow? Great. Let's go take a look. And then if you want to carry on a conversation from there, that's great. But most of the time, that conversation is pretty short and sweet. Might talk a few things, might be a couple minutes. But my goal is to get in front of them, because I know that true conversion happens not on that phone call. but when I'm face to face with someone. So if I can get that face to face appointment, then my conversion is going to be much higher. And so that's why that goal is first thing, set the appointment.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. I think one of your agents told me that a while back, and I'm like, that's a really smart way to go about it. And then, after they meet them, they set the appointment, they meet them. Then what would you say is a good course? Like, is it buyer's consult? Is it try to book the next meeting? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So when we get that face to face, I think for me, that's when that buyer consultation is happening. So if I'm going to go meet them at 123 Main Street, my buyer consultation is happening as I'm walking through the house. I'm asking those qualifying questions, and we are probably, dropping some questions about financing, and we're dropping some questions about, how long they're looking for a house, all that type of thing. So that buyer consultation for me is really happening during that. Now, there may be additional things, and some of our team definitely does a better job than myself or others about sitting down and doing a strict buyer consultation with them, spending an hour with them, just talking them through the process. That is not my strongest point, because I'm like, let's get them in the house. I'll talk you through it here as we spend 20, 30 minutes at the house together. I'm going to have that conversation. And so although it's not a formal buyer consultation, I'm asking those same questions and going through that same process. At the end of that time, when I just met them, like, my hope is like, hey, when they want to see a house, they're calling me. So that's the goal by the end of that first appointment.
Yeah. Do you get pretty good? I would think you guys get pretty good commitment after those first meetings. Like, do you know what your conversion rate is after you book the first appointment?
Yeah, after the first appointment, I go back and look. Like, again, they track all our numbers. So they always keep 6 months of data worth in front of us. And so we know, like, we have different categories we're looking at, that AOM rate, we're setting the appointment, but then we're actually going on the appointment with a met with rate. And then there's conversion all the way at the end. And so, our top agents are hitting 20% conversion, but that's from that initial phone call. And they're probably, if I've got five phone calls, I'm probably, setting appointment with 4 of them. I'm actually probably meeting 3 of them because the house may sell or they cancel or they don't show up, whatever. So I'm actually meeting with 3 of them. Maybe 2 of them get qualified, maybe 1 end up actually buying a house. So we know, again, if I can get 5, I'm hoping to get 1.
Right. Yeah. You're just creating leads.
Yeah.
And obviously you said at the very beginning that with some of these leads, they've become your friends, past clients,
Yeah.
they're referring you business. How have you been able to cultivate that with Zillow leads? I feel like that's the toughest piece. You go from not be literally a stranger to then now either a friend or referral partner.
Yeah. And that takes time. Again, that doesn't happen the first appointment. But one thing that I think is maybe a skill of mine is developing relationships with complete strangers, or at least building some sort of, friendship that may not happen day one. But I want them to leave there not buying the house. I want them there leaving there like, oh man, 1, I know the guy. 2, I think I trust this guy. And 3, I kind of like this guy. And so if you can get those 3 things, well, then I think someone's going to choose to work with you. If they know, they trust, and they like you, you're usually in pretty good shape. So my goal when I go meet them is like, okay, I want them to know me. Now they know me, because that Zillow helped me do that. But do they trust me and like me? And if they do, then again, it's a long process, right? And so most people don't buy that first house. We look at 7 or 8, we meet them 7 or 8 different times, and then we write an offer, and then we go to an inspection, and then we're at closing, and then, build a relationship, continue to keep in touch with them. My goal is for any past client is, there's probably 4 or 5 touch points throughout a year that I'm, whether it's a client party or just shooting them a text, checking in, or sending them a, market report. But we want all those touch points throughout a year. And so somebody who I met on Zillow, now we're seeing at a client party, and now I'm asking for, hey, with the assessment came back high, do you mind shooting me a few comps that if I want to fight this? And, it's just a relationship that is certainly built through that entire process.
Is any of that communication automated, or is it fairly, pretty manual?
Yeah, it's not automated. It's all because I think you want, especially with people, we certainly have things that are automated, but as far as once, are we talking after a deal is kind of
Yep.
finalized?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing really automated from that point. Laura will send me 5 contacts a day that I make sure that I'm reaching out to. So this morning, I just kind of checking in with 5 people as a reminder for me that because I don't want to forget about these people. And so I've got a list of 5 people every day. And then we're throwing a couple parties a year just as touch points with people. And then, like I said, we got a stack of CMAs on the desk to give them, hey, here's an update, on your house and the value and all that. So it's again, my goal 4 or 5 times a year that I'm talking to these people. And so it's automated in the sense like, here's what we're going to do, but it's not automated in like they're just getting an email saying whatever, it's personal touch for sure.
Right. No, I think that's fantastic, especially with, being that, like you said, Zillow can be a scary word for people, but it really, if you do it right, it sounds like you're able to convert it at a pretty high rate. 20% is insane.
Yeah, 20% is a huge rate. I mean, it's awesome. And, sometimes people don't understand that. Like, they pay for 2 or 3 leads a month and they're like, well, I didn't get anything. Well, it's a volume. Zillow and other online lead sources are volume. You got to have a lot of them, sift
Yeah.
through and find the good ones.
And then with your team, are you also giving or like teaching them other ways to get business as well? Like, whether it be, pretty much any social media. I know that's a big thing with a few of your agents is they're very active on social media. So kind of talk about some other avenues that you're really trying to help them focus on their business as well.
Yeah, Tim and Julie Harris, they're a coaching couple, but I heard them say this probably like 7 or 8 years ago, and they talked about 5 spokes. And so, we have brought this idea with us everywhere we've gone about different avenues in which you're generating leads. So we talk about 5 spokes. So Zillow is a spoke for us. Open houses might be a spoke. Your SOI definitely should be a spoke. Social media, whether be TikTok or Instagram or whatever, social media might be a spoke. You might farm a neighborhood, might be a spoke. And so there's all these different avenues in which people can generate leads. But my belief is you have to have 4 or 5 different ways in which you're constantly, working to generate leads for your business. Because if I'm just, and this is with me early in my career, if I'm just relying on my phone to ring, then your business is going to be, that's what it's going to look like. But if I can have 4 or 5 ways in which I'm generating leads, there might be some slow times, whatever, but it's hopefully slow and steady growth. And so I definitely preach this all the time. Any agent on our team, they would know what I'm talking about when we talk about 5 spokes. Is like, hey, Zillow is awesome, but it shouldn't be your only path of business. It can be a great one, but shouldn't be your only one.
Got it. No, I think that's fantastic. So for your business, what are some of the things that you are working towards currently, for 2023 to either improve upon, grow, expand your business? Talk about, what you're doing personally or even from a team perspective, what you're trying to do to continue to grow this well-oiled machine.
Yeah, well, we have a goal to sell 325 houses. So that's our big goal for the year. And if we sell 325, I'm taking the whole team to Vegas. So we've got that on the wall and something we're working towards. And I think we're at 120 right now, closing pending. And so we just have to have it under contract. And so we're picking up pace towards that number. We did 267 last year, so we think we can hit it, but we'll see. So that's our big goal for the year. I'm always for, if we can add the right people to the team. What I always don't want to do is take away from, and I've got some amazing agents on the team, and so I don't want to take away from the opportunity. So I talked about, hey, if I have 200 leads and I know, well, if I can get to the point where I'm getting 250 leads online, well, then it makes sense to add. And so as I've added to my team, it's because either the right person or the right opportunity, not just to add, just to have more people. So obviously they got to be the right people and the right fit and all that. But I also want to make sure the opportunity's there, and I'm not pulling the opportunity away from, my agents that are already there. Guys that are killing it. We want them to continue to kill it. I don't want to give them less. I'd love to give them more. But I also think there's like a limit to that, because there's only so much. Like Zillow, they put a max as we look through that. Like they don't want people getting more than 15 leads a month because they don't feel they can convert as a high. We can't follow up like we should. We can't, if I'm trying to show this many houses, it's to this many people, it's much more difficult. So we saw that. So when we were getting more leads and we were breaking that barrier, our conversion rate was actually lower. We were still selling a lot of houses just because of the sheer volume of leads, but
Right.
our conversion rate, as the market kind of slowed down and everybody was getting maybe a little less leads, our conversion rate actually went up. And so I want to, my goal would be, okay, 10 to 15 kind of as a max, because I think after that, it gets very difficult to convert at a good level.
Yeah. Do you have is there a way that you've been successful with long-term nurturing? Like if they don't convert on the first meeting, have you had good success on converting them long-term?
Oh yeah, buy, die, or restraining order that's our way to live by. Like if they're not ready, and a lot of Zillow ones are not. Like our average time from the time the Zillow lead comes in to closing, the ones that actually close or go, I'm sorry, to under contract is 55 days right now. So that's a process, but Amy had one last week or week before that was 368 or something like that, whereas a year long. I remember I had one, Catherine was her name, and that was a 3 year, and I just closed one up in Polk City a couple years ago that it was a 2020 Zillow lead. And so there is, Tom Ferry will talk about it all the time, but all the money's in the follow-up, especially with an online lead like Zillow or some other source. Like you got to be great at follow-up because there's a lot of money in the follow-up if you can do it well and right.
Yeah, for sure. And I think is that going back to it, is that something that you've automated or something that's manual, that you just kind of track it, via your calendar or something like that?
We have automated. So every now and then I'll get an email like, hey, I was just online looking, at our website. And so we get those probably weekly. We'll get an email like that, which is great. But that wasn't from somebody like following up. That was just in our ISA account. And they reached out and saw a house because they were browsing on our website. The best luck that I've had is that personal touch. And so Catherine and I were just talking about, I could pull up our history of text. And, every now and then I'd shoot a text and you can see like there is 9 or 10 where there was no response. And she turned from green to blue, because she got an iPhone, and you see this whole process of 3 years. And every now and then she'd respond. But when it was time, it wasn't me reaching out. She reached out. She goes, okay, I think I'm ready now. And she reached out and, I listed her house and sold her house. But she's I always go back to that because I can show people the length and how many times I reached out without, if I reach out to them, I'm not reaching out tomorrow if this person is months from buying a house, but it might be 60 days, it might be 30 to 60 days where I'm just kind of checking in, seeing how things are going, see if anything's changed with you. So it certainly is a process.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. You've given so much great info, and we're at like 45 minutes, so I want to be respectful of your time. I don't know if you want to keep going, but I will open it up for Q&A because you've got a lot of good info here and things eye-opening for me, honestly. And one thing it sounds like recapping, we want to keep Jacob Simon away from Vegas. So if you hit the 325,
that would be a good combo.
But no, I will open it up for Q&A. I'm going to mute myself. So that way, if anyone wants to jump in and ask questions, but I really appreciate you jumping on and all the great info that you've given us so far.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
If anyone has any questions, now is the time to ask.
Yeah. Hey, Kyle, Rich Bales. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, you bet, Rich.
Really enjoyed it. So I'm completely different industry. I'm in the insurance side, but really enjoy kind of getting your guys' take on, how your businesses grow, how they scale. One interesting thing for me that, no matter what business it is, someone as successful as you, as much time in the industry, I'm just curious is, what are you still doing daily, weekly, monthly to, refine your processes and get better? What does that look like for somebody with, your experience and size?
Coaching is a big part of that. Like I'm not a visionary. So for me to go out and dream what is 5 years going to look like, but what I'm really good at is implementing. And so if somebody says, hey, here's what you should do, then I can put together a plan and okay, well, we're going to do this really well and we're going to be successful at it. And so one thing that's been great for me, like on the coaching aspect, is he helps me dream and he'll push me towards things. and then we go out and we implement it. And so from an ongoing thing, like for me to have coaching is so important so I don't become stagnant and just get in a rut and get in a routine, because I need new things to kind of, okay, let's keep dreaming and different things like that. But I like routine is so important to me. The time I get up in the morning to working out, to having a list of 5 names in front of me that I need to have a conversation with today. And so that morning routine kind of getting going is, definitely a huge part of what we do.
Yeah, no, that's great. Another thing I kind of wanted to touch on. So I came from a totally different background. I was in medical device for 10 years and hired up a team, went from a team of 5 to a team of 100 guys, and hiring was a huge piece of that process. So have navigated that world a little bit, but am kind of at that point where I'm starting to build again. And I love to draw from experience in that, because it's just interesting. Like, I think niche by niche, different people are good fits.
Yeah.
So for you, as you've grown and built, what are kind of those qualities that you're looking for? Do you have, other backgrounds that have shown up repetitively, like, hey, this is a good fit? Do you prefer someone with no experience, with experience? What's been where's your success came from in that?
Yeah, it's funny because the one time we actually did like a recruiting campaign, it failed miserably. Like we had we had a service that was helping us. We sent emails, we sent texts, we were doing all this thing, and we had some people reach out, didn't love any of them. No offense to them, but like none of them were like a great fit. And the best growth that we've had is, it's just like selling real estate too. Like there was a referral, or they heard about us, they worked with us, or someone else told them about us. And so there was that connection that kind of existed because of another relationship that was already in place. And so like most of our growth has happened because, somebody was referred, they heard, about us from another agent, or, something like that.
Yeah, no, that's good. And not to hold you up either when asking questions, but just a handful always mean a ton to me. So the other thing is I know, like, one thing I consistently see in successful people is you're a product of who you're surrounding yourself with, information you're intaking, stuff like that. I don't know if it's necessarily always books, but if you're a reader, that's one thing. Podcasts, whatever it is. Where are you investing your time as far as content? What are you doing that's the
A listener. I'm not a reader.
Yeah, no, totally. And I don't think it really matters where you get it.
Yeah.
I think I just consistently see that in successful people. There's somewhere that you are, sharpening that sword. So if there's podcasts or audiobooks or whatever it is, I'd love to kind of hear.
I've got a list of audiobooks for sure that have definitely impacted. I'd have to go through the list and grab it, and I certainly can do that. Like Phil Jones, I'm listening to a book by Phil Jones. Well, Phil Jones is, if you want to learn sales skills, like Phil Jones is like the best I've heard out there.
Okay.
And so he's a really good guy. I don't know if he's done much beyond real estate, but I've heard him at a few conferences, read a few books, but Phil Jones is incredible. And so he'd be one. But then there's certainly, I was talking to someone on Monday at a closing, and they're like, "Oh, what are you reading?" So I sent him a list of like, "Hey, here's 10 of my favorites." I'd have to jump in and grab those from audiobooks.
No, that's perfect. I'll toss my phone number in the group chat here. If you get a quick second, I'd love that. I was actually I grabbed coffee with Jacob this morning, and we were talking about books and stuff like that. I went through a phase of like really crushing books to like try to do that. So no, it's interesting. Thank you for your time.
I go through phases too. Like, I'm not a big music guy, but all of a sudden I'll just go through. This is because usually what I listen to is when I'm working out or in the car, and so I'll go through phases of podcast or phases of books, or for a couple of weeks listen to music, and then I'll get bored and do something else. But
I'm the same way for sure.
And sometimes it's educational and sometimes it's just entertaining.
I feel like I get through like 2 or 3 nonfiction self-help type stuff, and then I got to break it up with like a fun story or something. So yeah, perfect. All right, well, thank you so much again. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions for Kyle?
Hey Kyle, it's Tanner.
What's up, Tanner?
Are you hiring?
Hiring?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Your mom would love that.
Yeah, don't tell her I asked, would you? But no, my question has to do with social media. Do you have a concrete schedule on what you follow on, like when you post, what you're posting, and like what your content looks like, or is it just like what you have going on?
In my mind, I do. So I used to be really good. Like, and then things got really busy and my team started to grow. And now, Adelina, who handles our marketing, she does that. And one thing I need to get back to, because 2000, whatever, before pre-pandemic, I jumped on TikTok in 2019 at the end. And there weren't a lot of people doing it back then. But I had an idea like, okay, I'm going to post one once a week. That's my goal. And then kind of, I got busy. And I need some sort of routine. But most of our marketing is handed off, or, Adelina takes care of now.
Okay, so what's your take on like posting personally versus posting professionally? Like, do you have separate pages for both? Because I mean, I have you personally on Facebook, and I don't know if I ever see your content like cross over, but I just kind of wanted to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, usually it doesn't cross over. There's just a few moments that it does. Like, so we got a business page, and then I would say maybe twice a month, I'll do something real estate on my personal page, and it's, I may share something, or if I love a TikTok that I did, then I definitely will do it on my personal one. But most of it sticks to the professional, and then but I do want to do some on my personal, because I do want to remind everybody that I am selling real estate. That's a great way to do it. Without, I'm not sharing every post I have, because I think that people would get tired of that on my personal.
Sweet, that's all I got. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for this. A lot of good information. Thanks for putting it together again, Jared.
Yeah, you bet. And I think Kyle, your social media, I can't remember what video. Didn't you like jump in a pool in Arizona one time for like
Yeah, it's California, but yeah.
something?
Yeah, I used to be a whole lot more consistent. Then everybody started doing it, and I was kind of like, I don't know. But it doesn't matter if everybody does it, because you know who it's for. It's not for other real estate agents. It's for my people, and my people aren't following all those other real estate agents. And so I have to remind myself of that. Like, it doesn't matter what other people are doing or not doing. It's all about my audience. Yeah.
For sure. Any last questions? I'll leave it up one more question, and then I'll let Kyle get going. All right. Well, Kyle, thank you again for joining on and providing, honestly, a ton of good info on your business, and sharing giving a lot of value to other agents. So this is recorded. I'll make sure everybody gets this recording. And then Kyle, if you could, you're obviously speaking tomorrow. Can you send me the link for that? I'll pass that out to everybody and make sure that they can. You're gonna have a fan base there tomorrow.
Yeah, good. Show up. I think it's gonna be good information. I'll be great, obviously, but other people as well. I think it's gonna be an amazing morning. I'm gonna send this to you.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining. Kyle, thank you. I'll follow up with you with the text after, and then awesome. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.